Hi guys, it's Joy, and I'm filming this video last minute because oh my goodness, I happened to see what happened with Trisha Paytas and H3H3 last night. I'm sorry if y'all see me moving around. My slipper fell off of my shoe. Isn't this cute? I know I've shown you before, but it's rainbow, and then look, it's got these straps that sparkle on the end. I love everything sparkly, and my candles are here. Makes me so happy. But okay, sorry. I'll stop girling out for a minute and start actually doing the video. I was gonna say work, but even though I do get paid for this, it doesn't feel like work because I get to hang out with you guys, and I love doing that. So, I had a whole nother video about Shane Dawson planned because of what D'Angelo Wallace came on to say. So I will release that tomorrow. And these two videos are going to be very stark in contrast. So I know I've gotten a lot of criticism for defending Shane. And you know what? Like, that's fine, right? I'm not upset about it. And my goal isn't to defend all of Shane's past actions. It's to show some different information and give different perspectives on it, right? If you haven't seen those videos, this one might not make as much sense. Or if you haven't seen my first video on what happened to Trisha, stop this video, go check those out. I'll have links in the description. I'll have links up here. So, click on the card button. And so you'll see the first one about Trisha. It'll explain what happened. And then go check out what I've said on Shane Dawson, because this is going to be specifically about Trisha Paytas and what happened with Jeffree Star's assistant or somebody that works with him in regard to Shane Dawson. And yeah, this is not going to be in defense of Shane video, just so you guys know. Now, I try my best, unless you're somebody super awful, like Onision, and even then, I'm still going to try to be as respectful as possible, right? I know a lot of people loved Fired Up Angry Joy. I'm just in a very different place. My health is better. And, I've worked out a lot of those issues about predatory people and what they've done to me in my life. I'm not over it, obviously. Well, I don't know if it's obvious to you guys, but for me, it's obvious. I still have a lot of work to do on myself, but you'd be surprised how much emotionally better you feel when you're not, like, dying all the time or about to leave the planet. You know what I mean? It really helps your mental state. So, it's funny. I could see... Oh, psychiatry. Sometimes the mental health profession really makes me mad. Somebody could literally be on their deathbed and terrified, and they'd go, I think you need a pill for that mental illness. No, it's that there's this life situation happening that's legitimately scary, and the person is going through the emotions. It's okay to have emotions. I'm not saying all mental health stuff is bad. I'm just saying sometimes this stuff gets ridiculous. Sometimes I've been around enough. Well, for me, I've been around enough too many doctors who didn't want to think anything was physically wrong with me. So you must be crazy. You must have anxiety. Y'all know my story. But let's talk about this. So I told you guys to go check out those videos. Let me give you a quick overview of what's happened. So apparently like a year ago, around Valentine's Day, Trisha Paytas, Jeffree Star, and this guy named hairbyjay, they all went on a trip to Vegas. And I guess they were going to go see Mariah Carey live. So Trisha has come out and talked about that and said that the whole trip so the person hairbyjay, that was the person that was, I guess, is it doing their hair or their wig? What does it mean to get a wig done? Can you guys explain this to me in the comments? By the way, I think it's, what was it? Valencia with a B, the bag. Somebody in the comments had mentioned, because I don't know, I'll explain this in a second, but apparently hairbyjay does wigs. I don't even know what that means. The only thing I know about wigs, I do watch that show, Blank Creek. I can't even say it because I'm afraid YouTube will get mad at me and think it's a curse word. You know the show with Dan Levy and Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hare? I love that. That show is so much fun, right? All I really know about wigs are that, Catherine O'Hare, what's her name on there? I can't remember anything this morning. What's her name? Sound off in the comments. What is it? Anyway, Moira Rose. She has a ton of wigs. That's it. So, am I to understand that in the beauty community, it's common to own wigs? And I'm not trying to be mean or offensive. I just don't know. I'm just working with this head of hair that's having a ton of issues lately. So does Trisha Paytas, so when we see her done, well, because I've heard of extensions. Extensions, that's not the same as a wig. Anyway, y'all want to know why I don't cover beauty? It's things like, I don't get it. No disrespect, I don't get it. But he's their wig guy? Or is it the whole hair guy? Or do you have a wig guy and a hair guy that's separate? Wouldn't you think the two were together? I don't know. He's a wig guy, whatever that means to y'all, or whatever that actually means. Please educate me if you don't mind. I don't really want, this is stuff, again, I'm not in the beauty community. I'm probably never gonna wear a wig. This is something not into. If you're into it, fantastic, right? Good. It's just not me. I'm sorry, this is kind of becoming a bit rambly, but I'm trying to commentate. And I don't really care as much about the beauty minutia. I'm just trying to get the details straight. Apparently he was the wig guy, and he was supposed to help with wigs and get wigs and I guess make them nice or something. I don't really know. And so apparently whoever this guy is, hairbyjay and Jeffree, were horrible to her the whole trip. They ditched her. They were mean to her. They'd knock food out of her hand. They'd make fun of her behind her back, to her face. But then they would be irritated that she wasn't having a good time and she left the trip early. And apparently they made fun of her because she bought a Balencia, right? B. I thought it was a V because I don't know. All I know is the one Louis Vuitton. I know that one just because that's a name you hear all the time. I don't know. I'm assuming this is a designer, Balencia, right? I feel like I've heard that name before. So it's some bag and she asked the price for it and they made fun of her and said that she was poor, like, which is ridiculous. I'm telling you right now, Trisha makes minimum. If you want to know what she's making on TikTok and YouTube, she's making like 50 to 100,000 a month easily, if not 250,000. I only know because I finally got for a short time to be on the side of YouTube where you make a bunch of money. So granted, Trisha's video is a little more controversial. I'm not here to talk about Trisha's finances. My apologies. Not to be rude. I'm just saying, girl isn't poor. Homegirl isn't poor. If I made like a couple million views, my first month monetized on stimulus made $76,000. Imagine what Trisha's making. By the way, I hardly have any of that money left. So what happens when you go through a federal lawsuit and your company doesn't pay you? That's okay. I won. I told you this is a bit rambly. I apologize. I guess that's okay though, because we're talking about beauty stuff. And isn't that part of the beauty thing? You just kind of talk and, BS and gossip. I don't know. I don't like gossip. And to me, this isn't gossip per se. And I think I have an interesting take on this. I promise I'm getting to this point. I hope at least you guys are entertained so far. Trisha's not poor. And I guess they made fun of her about asking for the price of a bag and then they threw it away. Like they were really mean to her, right? And I guess the service by this guy, hairbyjay, wasn't very good. And hairbyjay is employed by Jeffree Star, kind of an assistant, a right-hand guy, travels with him everywhere. And hairbyjay recently came out in a video, and that's what I talked about. He was horrible. First, he said they didn't make fun of her. Then he complained that she was, boring the whole time. And then admitted, well, because you're ugly, we made fun of you. They made fun of her skin, her body, her past, anything he could. It was a gross video. And I didn't show everything. I just showed a few minutes of I think a 40-minute long rant that he did. I didn't want to show everything and I had to bleep a lot out. Also, I bleep stuff out in here. I have to bleep things out. You guys know I love cursing. It's just what I have to do because I'm on the new rules of YouTube and I'm doing my best with it. So that's where this comes from. And here's the thing though. He didn't just stop at, all of those things. He then started making physical threats at her. On stream, he called her 5 times, back to back. And then he shows up at her house and he starts stalking her. No, it is not a joke. It is scary. And I don't care who you are. And I think I'm going to do a video about this because there's a lot of people in the comments saying that Trisha deserves it. Trisha puts herself in these situations, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I think I can understand to an extent what people are saying, but it's also horse crap. Women go through this all the time with men. Men feel entitled to do this, women across the board. Most of the women that I've known, unless they've been married to their high school sweetheart who didn't have issues, you've had issues with some dude acting crazy because he feels entitled to because he knows he can overpower you or he can scare you. And remember, this is Jeffree. Jeffree has a sordid past and has done all kinds of mean, crazy things. And he's surrounded himself with the best and the brightest people. I don't know, former musicians or entertainers who might hurt children. Didn't seem to bother him. So I'm not a super huge fan of Jeffree. I also don't know a ton about Jeffree, but this is a very dangerous situation Trisha's in. Now, where does Shane come in? Shane, as we know, has stood by and stuck up for Jeffree Star on repeat. And it's interesting because I feel like what's played out, what we're seeing 2 different dichotomies. We're seeing, in my opinion, what looks like a bad friendship and trauma on every side, which is what I want to point out and show you. And it's weird because it comes full circle in this, and that can happen very much when you're in friendships or relationships. So as we know, Trisha is friends with Shane Dawson. I guess they're close. She says he's a best friend, and Trisha has really taken heat for defending Shane. I've defended Shane in the sense of I've tried to give people understanding of why Shane did what he did, the context of how the time was and how this was acceptable, and where I think forgiveness lies. This is what I've tried to say. It's not me saying the things that were done were okay. It's me explaining why they were done. It's giving more understanding into the situation. And I've gotten crap for it, but that's fine. I'm going to speak my truth. Even if it goes against popular opinion, so be it. I want to give as much information and insight I can see into something as possible so we can have more wisdom in it, right? That's just what I like to do, at least on this channel as it is right now. So, in regard to this, Trisha has defended him. And when things went down with Shane, when Shane got canceled and people tried to cancel Jeffree, I mean, they've always tried to cancel Jeffree, it just never works because Jeffree is so awful. He doesn't care when people do it. And he's just going to continue to do more bad things. And people kind of are like, oh, that's him. We're aware that's him. So people shrug it off more. When it's somebody like Shane, when you're seeing somebody fall from a pedestal, it becomes a media or a YouTube frenzy to document that because there's something about our psychology as people and human beings where we want to see a fall from grace, but then we also love a triumph story. I'm not writing the rules. I'm just saying this is typically how they go. So I've always thought it's really hypocritical how much crap Shane has gotten when people have done far worse. But again, I think it comes from that dichotomy of, falling from the pedestal when, Jeffree has a platform, but nobody's ever held him on a pedestal necessarily. And so here's what I want to do. I want to break all of this down and what I'm seeing with the dynamics because Shane is friends with Jeffree. And Shane has continued to defend and stand by Jeffree every step of the way. And now he's at odds. You have Jeffree, who somebody in his employ has done horrible things. Jeffree's done horrible things to one of Shane's best friends. And then there's Trisha. And in a sense, who's Shane gonna pick? And people might say, well, that's not really fair, but I think if you're going to be a good friend, it is fair to pick the health and well-being of a friendship. So let's dive into this. I want to see what Trisha has to say specifically about Shane. We're going to see it from her TikToks. It's so weird. 5 years ago, never would have thought you would be referring to social media as TikToks. But by the way, if you hear an alarm going off, I'm sorry. I live in Oklahoma. Every Saturday, I think at like noon, they test the tornado alarms no matter what time of day, time of day, it's always at noon, no matter what the weather, because this place don't play. Nature doesn't play out here. And I'm from Kansas City, where we get a lot of tornadoes anyway, so it's strange. But anyway, so I want to go ahead, let's play what she has to say, and then I'm going to break down the dynamics and where I think Shane is wrong. Let's take a look.
I had made Shane aware of all of this from the beginning, from the minute it happened. And I am not that person to say, like, don't be friends with someone, but it's just like the constant promoting of Jeffree and just how awful and evil he is. Like, it really makes me sick to my stomach. And I literally just can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. And I didn't want to be that person to also be like, he did this, and this to me. And because to me, it's just mean girl stuff. It's just him being mean and awful. But this is taking it to another level, and I don't support it. And I'm saying that now. I don't support it. I don't support this. And I'm like, I'm just scared. I'm just really scared right now. Okay, so my fiance's on his way home. There's 2 more security guards here. I keep getting like messages like this, and I've heard this before, that Jeffree was telling everybody that I was high, and the jet was paid for because you were high on drugs, and Jeffree wanted you safe. I wasn't high. He told Jaclyn Hill how disgusting and gross me and John Hill were when we hung out. This is all while we were friends. Everybody around me knows this. My mom, my sister, Shane, everybody knew this behavior from Jeffree and that he was saying this about me. There's a video of another guy that wasn't on the payroll that was on that trip with us that has also backed up this story. I wasn't high. I wasn't on drugs at all. It's all very triggering. It's all very triggering, but I just want it all out there. Like, Jeffree's an awful person. This is proved now by the people around him closest saying this stuff. So if you're hearing the front driveway thing, sorry, that's what's happening. Everyone's just like installing new stuff, and like there's new people out there, and there's just like a lot happening. But I'm okay right now. And now my paranoia is just like really, really high, and I start to think like, oh my god, the people who have supported Jeffree and stood by Jeffree, knowing all this stuff has been going on with me, and I wasn't saying this online, I wasn't saying this for attention, I wasn't trying to expose anybody, but I was telling people this in private, and the fact that people still like defended him, and not only that, but like supported him publicly, and just making him like this glorious thing. It's like, it's disgusting. Like, Jay's video shows how disgusting he admitted in his live today all the disgusting they said, and it's more than just mean girl stuff. It's just like triggering, and it's so gross and disgusting to me. And now just like the security threat, I just feel so overwhelmed, and I'm putting it out there so as many people know about this, just because like I truly feel like something bad is gonna happen. Like, I truly feel that in my heart, and I can't do anything until like something actually happens, which really, really sucks. All I have is security, my fiance, our security inside, like. And I'm honestly so appreciative of that. They just made me feel like a lot better. Like it really does bring into question when I go for bat and defend people so hard. And the minute it hits the fan and people know about this last year when this was happening to me in real life and nobody comes to my defense, nobody says anything. And I am so grateful for Jeffree for like defending me and stuff like that, because honestly, it does get so like you start getting paranoid. You're like, wait, this person is supposed to be my best friend. This person is supposed to be my life, but they're nowhere to be found when I'm that they know what's happened. They know the truth of it. And it's so frustrating. And I'm so sick of protecting people and defending people. And I'm done with it. I am so done with it. I don't need it anymore. I don't want it anymore because there's some people. And like going on the H3, it just made me feel good that I'm like not going crazy, you know? Because it's more than just internet drama. This is like some serious threatening. And I have zero to apologize for. I apologize for absolutely nothing. You know what? His work, his service, he overcharged me. He knew he overcharged me. He knew he lied on me. There are so many lies upon lies. And yes, okay, call me boring, call me whatever, but I left that trip because you guys ditched me every single night. You guys were nasty. You guys, I have text messages from Jeffree saying Maddie threw my Balenciaga in the trash. It's up. But beyond all this petty, evil, nasty people that get to be influencers that have the privilege of doing, beyond that, like no one should feel threatened for giving their opinion on something, for saying how they feel about something, for how they wrongfully treat. I've been polite, I've been respectful, I've been like holding myself back because I didn't want to step on toes. I didn't want to make, Shane and Jeffree's friendship, I don't want to strain on that or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a anymore. So I just saw on Jeffree's that he does obviously not support the stuff that Jay said. And like I said in my previous TikTok, that's what I figured. And I appreciate that. And like, to me, that says a lot because it just feels, again, like everybody has this agenda. I've become paranoid about it. Obviously what Jay said is a straight on threat. He showed up to my house. And so now I was like getting paranoid. I was like, okay, is Jeffree involved? And then of course, I see the comments and like my other friends that support Jeffree. And I'm like, are they setting me up because I'm already look crazy online? So I'm already set up to look some type of way. And it's just a lot. So it's just triggering a lot of emotions and it's just like overwhelming me right now. But obviously this is something scary and Jeffree's like not involved, but his person is talking on his behalf. Like this is his person that like works with him, his best friend, like the person that he's promoting in videos and on Instagram and everywhere. So it's just a lot. To give you context, like it was on a trip I went on with Jeffree Star last Valentine's Day, and they basically made fun of me while I was on the trip. Basically said,
he admitted
my skin
that.
is greasy. Yeah, like he said it, and Jeffree too. And I was trying to be cool with Jeffree because Shane and Ryland stuck up for Jeffree, and I just was like, all right, I'm gonna be cool. I'm not gonna be that mean or whatever. I'm not gonna come for Jeffree and expose him. But I finally just kind of like let it down a little bit. I'm like, he's not a nice person, whatever.
Thing was like, oh, we paid for all this, so you have to endure and whatever we say and do to you. It's like, what?
It was the worst trip of my life. And I came home and I told Shane and I told my sister, I told my mom, everyone who knew I came home early. They were awful. They basically like smacked food out of my hand, told me I shouldn't be eating, told me I was poor because I asked the price of a Balenciaga bag. Like, oh my God, you have to ask the price of how much that is before you buy it. Like, you're so poor. I mean, it's so insane. And like, I'm just so sick of people like getting away with that stuff, especially Jeffree. Like Ryland just had Jeffree on his podcast and it pissed me off because Jeffree is the worst person, and and it shows by that guy's video. Like, I am a crazy person. I have drama with people, but I never like go for people's like looks, smells. I'm gonna say they're dead, like all this stuff. Especially Jeffree and that guy. There's so many low blows I could take, and I don't. People suck, and like I'm so tired of trying to like tiptoe around it. And even on the last frenemies, I was like, maybe I'm too hard on Jeffree, but no. This is like this is Jeffree's like BFF. This is how they talk about people. Like this is how they talk about people. This didn't just come out of nowhere. This is how they talk.
Why is Shane and Ryland, or what's his husband's name, Ryland? Why are they still friends with Jeffree?
I have no idea.
But Shane,
and honestly, I'm not that person to be. Yeah.
But Shane and Jeffree are like, they have like this whole history together of selling the makeup and making $1 bajillion.
Yeah, maybe that's why. And that's the only thing I can think of because he's just a person. And I'm never to be like, don't be friends with this person or whatever, but it's just anything. Not once did Jeffree ever defend Shane during any of this. Like, they both just hid. You know what I meant? And I was just like, and I stuck up for him, and I was like, Jeffree's a friend and person. Yeah. But anyways, I saw that. I didn't want to be a part of this because I saw D'Angelo was on, but then I was like, oh, then you guys are sticking up for me and being like amazing. So then I was like, okay.
We didn't really try. Yeah, we had a good combo with D'Angelo.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he's nice and whatever. It's fine. I get why people don't like Shane. I'm not like trying to defend him. I just like love Shane. So like no matter what, if he kills somebody, I'll be like, oh, I love Shane. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to defend him.
Fair enough.
Okay, did you guys catch the interesting pattern that Trisha did? I don't know if y'all did. We're going to talk about trauma. It was, when I say it, like I kind of giggled, not like that I'm making fun of somebody. It was just like, oh, here it is. Here's the answer literally being served to us on a plate in like the same sentence as the situation. So we both know that Shane and Trisha both have trauma that they deal with, right? And both of them have been fairly open. I would say Trisha's the most open, probably of most people, about her trauma. And that's her thing. More power to her, right? I'm not knocking her. But when you come from trauma, there's an interesting dynamic that happens that both Shane and Trisha are playing out together and on one another and Jeffree Star. You've heard consistently Trisha say, I'm scared of this guy. I didn't want to speak up. I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to talk about how awful Jeffree is because Jeffree is friends with and in business with Shane. And therefore, I don't want to make things bad for Shane. So yes, in terms of friendships, it's an innate instinct to want to protect your friends, sometimes against your own self-interest. However, many people who go through trauma, especially with abuse, one thing we learn, especially if we're growing up from it, we learn to protect the people that hurt us. This is something that happened to me time and time again. And here's the other part. What it teaches you is to be loyal to the wrong people. And I think it's really hypocritical. I love Shane. I really like Shane. I'm never going to deny that I like Shane. And I defend a lot of his cancellation because I think there's more information about the culture and who he is as a person and how he's changing. But I'm also a fair person. And I like Trisha too. Let me tell you what I think and what I see from these people. I think both people have trauma. And when you're under trauma, not only do you protect the people that abuse you, you learn to be loyal to them. You learn to be loyal to the people that hurt you. And I feel for Trisha because how many of us have been in this situation, right? Especially going through trauma or abuse. We are that ride or die for a friend. We stick up, we do everything for them. And then they're not there for us. They turn their back when they can get something. They make things up about us. They're horrible to us. And then many times we stay friends with them. I had a friend, and I don't want to say too much about it because I think she is a disgusting human being. And it was weird because we were friends since we were young. I always picked up on sometimes she'd get real rude and mean to me, but I didn't understand it and I blew it off. And because it came from abuse and trauma, I guess I just kind of thought it's normal or, oh, this is joking. And it took me a while and other people pointing it out to realize she would say little comments because she was jealous of me. This girl was considerably more overweight than I was. And she would make comments about what I'm wearing or just be mean and put me down. But then she could also be really nice too. It was a really weird dichotomy. But over the years, I started to really, really see it. And when I finally decided to call her out on some of her behavior, this girl took it upon herself to go on social media and make up a ton of lies about me in front of friends, colleagues, and bosses. Saying I stole things, really awful stuff that she knows. You could say a lot of things about me. I don't steal from people, just made things up. And then, when she found out I was on social media, as I do these things like I am now, this girl, she came out, had never said a word, and started leaving comments in somebody's video making things up about me. Making things that are provably untrue, like just crazy stuff. And I'm glad she did it. I'm glad. It put the nail in the coffin for me and helped me put in perspective how much I had been surrounding myself with awful people. And I think that's part of the dichotomy that Shane and Trisha are in. Did you hear what Trisha said? As Trisha is going off and saying, I'm getting paranoid because why am I defending Shane with everything and he's not speaking up for me and he still stands by this guy, and then in the same sentence turns around and says, I love Shane, I'll protect him. He could, do this, and this horrible thing, and I'm still going to protect him, and I'm still going to ride for him. Do you see the dichotomy? Trisha is protecting somebody who in this moment is not being good to her. Shane and Ryland know what's happened with Jeffree and still promote him. They know the kind of person he is. They still want to do business with him. So one of two things I can see are happening with Shane. You know, he'll publicly defend Jeffree Star, but not Trisha. He won't speak out about this when it's Trisha, but we're going to defend Jeffree and all the awful actions and stand by it. One of two things. Either Shane is blinded by the money because they made money together. He's protecting his bag, and let's be clear, that's what most YouTubers are going to do. Not saying that's the case. I'm throwing out a scenario. Or both Trisha and Shane have the same problem. They have trauma bonds, is what I like to call it. Trauma bonds. You bond in certain ways with certain people as a result of trauma. So Trisha says nothing and does things that will go against her own health and safety to protect Shane. And Shane says nothing with Jeffree because Shane and both Trisha have been taught in growing up in abuse and being around abusive people that you protect the people that abuse and you are loyal to them. So Shane could be in a situation where his loyalties are being challenged. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, what always will come first and paramount is health and safety. Do we protect and stand by Jeffree, who has a horrible history of all this stuff and whose assistant is doing this, and say nothing? Or do we protect Trisha, the one that's in danger? And here's what I would say. I think, and I've said this, funny enough, before I knew fully what was going on, I said this in the video you're going to see tomorrow. Shane needs to take a hard look at the people that's around him. And I hope during this time off, that's what he's choosing to do. I will tell you right now, I have a bias in the sense I choose to believe in this moment that Shane is a decent person trying to work through things. I could be totally wrong, but this is what I choose to believe with Shane from what I've observed. That could change. I hope Shane is going to take a ton of time out of his situation to look at the people around him. He has to take stock of these people and figure out who's toxic, who's not, and start cutting people out. If he really wants to live from a place where he's not letting the trauma and the abuse of his past, which his content dictated before, continue to go into his future, he has to do that, even if he's going to lose money. But I can also see Shane's perspective, where Shane would be scared right now because he's in this precarious situation already. People have canceled him up one side and down the other, but he still has his money-making enterprise with Jeffree. But is that worth your friend's health and safety? And I think he's got to cut out the toxic people. If he wants to come back and show change and growth and move forward in a way that people will accept, regardless of whether or not that's fair or not, I'm just giving the insight that I see it. I really think Shane has to cut these toxic people out. And I will say I'm disappointed. I still love Shane, but I'm disappointed that he said nothing about the situation so far with Trisha. But let's also be clear. Shane is in a position where people have canceled him so much, he probably feels like he can't really talk. He's, crapped if he do, crapped if he doesn't. So in that way, I can have some compassion. But I would hope that Shane would come to some defense of Trisha with this, with as much as Trisha has rode for him. Because otherwise it looks like he's using her. I'm just going to be blunt. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like to me. And I hope Shane isn't that person. I'm going to believe he's not. And if I'm wrong, I'm ignorant, right? And then, time will prove whether or not I'm right or not. The other thing I want to say for Trisha is, and I think I'm going to make a whole other video about this, is that it's so hypocritical. So many people in the comments were coming for her, that she puts herself in the situation. This is his fault. She's triggering him. She's encouraging him further. It is never a woman's fault when a man comes and threatens and stalks her and shows up at her house. I'm sorry. Maybe she added some fuel to some fire somewhere. Doesn't matter. That's ridiculous. And I also think it further proves what a lot of women go through. Men can terrorize them, and until they actually show up at their house and, end them, there's very little we can do. It's hard enough to even get a restraining order on somebody who makes threats and does all kinds of things at you. It's a ridiculous situation and a scenario that women and other people are put in. This happens all the time. Women get into a relationship, the guy does stuff like this, she tries to leave, he stalks, he harasses, he does all these things. And you know what? I guess it's okay. Except if he actually goes to hurt her. Well, once, her life is over because he's ended it, then it's a different story. But then it's too little too late. There is very little system for women. And that's why it makes me so upset that I feel like Shane should be speaking out more about this, because it really is Trisha's health and safety. And I don't care what you think about her. I don't care if you like her. I don't care if I like her or dislike her. Nobody deserves that. And she shouldn't be in that position, in my opinion. And again, I think I might do a separate video on this just because it really bothered me to steal those comments. And one thing I do want to say, you know, I was critical to an extent of, you know, when Trisha quit frenemies again in that situation. But what I saw through that and what I saw through this is that, you know, Ethan and Hila seem like they really genuinely care and they're actually friends of Trisha. And to Trisha, you've gone through a lot of trauma. You are about to get married. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Not that she's ever going to watch this because she's too busy being fabulous doing what she does, right? And that's not me butt kissing. I'm just telling you, I'm not that YouTuber that assumes everybody watches my content. Like, who would I, like, so many YouTubers do that. They think they're so self-important somebody's going to watch them. Like, I've had so many YouTubers approach me and start talking about something. What are you talking about? Well, you know the video I did on you. You know. And I'm like, no, I don't. Well, you watch everything about you. No, I actually watch almost nothing unless there's something super important I need to see, because it's toxic. And furthermore, you're not that important, sweetheart, for me to sit around and watch you all the time. It's just, a lot of YouTubers get really self-absorbed with that, and it really, really bothers me. But to Trisha's always painted as somebody who's mentally unstable and crazy. She's got issues and she's open with them, but that doesn't mean she's necessarily mentally unstable and crazy, and she's working on herself. Yes, she might have some mental illness issues, but I think a lot of Trisha's issues come from insecurity, trauma, and poor health. And when I say poor health, this is not a put down about, like, you know, her body or, you know, what she eats. That's not what I'm trying to say. I think a lot of women have a lot of different issues that go undiagnosed, like hormonal issues as to why our bodies gain weight easily, all kinds of stuff that aren't looked at that make us very insecure, but we're told don't exist or nobody ever brings it up in a doctor's office. I think Trisha probably has some poor health issues she has no idea about that contribute to a lot of what she's going through. No fault of her own. This is what women go through. This is what I document on my channel. Trisha has really been trying to work on herself. She's not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, advocate and act like she's perfect, but she's really trying, and she's being open and openly showing that. And I think over the years, she's shown some change. So if I could give her some advice, even though she's not going to watch this, but from one girl to another who's been through a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD, a lot of abuse, this is what I would say. Trisha, you have a great thing going with frenemies. You're doing well on TikTok. YouTube is what it is. I still think you do well on YouTube, but I can get her frustration with it because YouTube is YouTube. You are about to get married, and you're really building the life that you want. If you want to move past your emotional issues and your trauma, I would say the exact same advice that I said to Shane is to Trisha. Trisha, you've got to look at the people in your life and who is toxic. Who are you wasting energy on who isn't there for you? I think that is so much of the issue that some of the issues that Trisha ends up going through with mental health and people being mean to her. People use, look at what happened with Jeffree Star. He and his assistant invited her as a joke just to make fun of her the whole time. And you know what? It might not be sexual, but it's still an objectification. You're looking at her as something to be used. And it's gross. And I think because Trisha has issues, she's a target for predatory type people. Like Jeffree. That's a predatory move. Not saying sexually predatory, but it's a predatory move nonetheless. And again, looking all at this and analyzing this, I'm going to hope for Trisha the same thing. Take stock in all the people. Do an evaluation of the people in your life. And also, this is something else we do with trauma. When we have that uncomfortable feeling about people, sometimes we don't think about it. We push it to the side. We don't focus on it. And I'm not knocking that. I get it. There was a guy in my life, you know, a real wizardly guy. That's all I'll say about the person in themselves. But this person acted like a know-it-all all the time and acted really intelligent. And I had this thing for a long time. I think it has to do with dad issues and not having a father around. And the father figure I did have was horrible, horrific. I kind of had this sense where I would get intellectually passive with men many times, not every time. And I didn't understand it. And with this guy, I kind of felt like on some level I had to play the "you're smarter than me" card. And it was an unconscious behavior I did. It took me a long time to understand it. I just knew something didn't feel right and I felt uncomfortable. And once I got some attention on social media and I thought we were friends, turns out this person was madly in love with me, which I didn't realize, which is kind of embarrassing. I look back now and I see messages and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see it. And the moment I disagreed and didn't take this person's advice because they're so intelligent, even though their life is always in horrific shambles, this person ended up going on a campaign to try to destroy my life. Funny enough, the person was out as having a lot of predatory behavior and being a little bit of a predator themselves with young minors, please infer. But I got so mad at myself because looking back, I was like, there were things that I had really uneasy feelings about this person. But this person always had sob stories, didn't have a family. I could relate to a lot of what they were going through. So, you know, I kept them around as a friend. And I had convinced myself they were a friend. They weren't a friend. Trisha, take a while to examine the people in your life. And also, this advice, and you guys might be going through this too, right? If you've gone through trauma and abuse, always evaluate your friendships and relationships because you never know what you're pulling in from your trauma abuse bonds that you might not be seeing. And it takes time. It can, you know, it's not an overnight process. It can take years to dissect this stuff, right? But always be evaluating because sometimes we end up drawing in the wrong people because of what we've been through. It's not necessarily a fault of our own, but something that when we become aware, when we have the awareness of it, we have to take responsibility for and try to make changes. At least that's what I've done. It's been really helpful. I am super isolated and alone now, but I would rather do that and have it that way than have those horrible friends like my former girlfriend and people who think they're wizards. And I'll keep it at that. All right, guys, if you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up and help my channel. Like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you know when I upload. Also, guys, comment. What do you think? Do you think I'm spot on? Do you think I'm right with some of this? Do you think I'm missing stuff? Tell me. I would love to hear it. And guys, please share this content with anybody you think could benefit from it. People, you know, who maybe have gone through this sort of thing with friends, who've gone through abuse, who've gone through trauma. I'd love to reach as many people as possible. So wherever you feel to share it, I would love that. And if you're new, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you can know when I upload. Okay, guys, I'm going to put this up. I love Shane. I love Trisha. But Shane, you need to pick health and well-being over money and loyalty to wrong people, in my opinion. And I hate being that person that says you have to, but in a situation like this, with as much heat as Shane has taken, if he doesn't say something, it's going to add to the really difficult, it's going to add to the narrative that's already there for him not to come back. And it's going to showcase him in an even worse light. Even if he doesn't necessarily, even if he's not necessarily ill-intended, and maybe he is, I'm not saying he's not. I'm going to believe he's not. But we'll have to see. Time will tell. Okay, guys, take care. Blessing, lots of love till the next video. Wishing everybody lots of hugs. Mwah, and always giving you kisses. Bye, guys.